Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Golden Age. This is a series of Warhammer Fantasy battle reports. This is battle report number 47. It is a 2,500 point battle that is fought between my friend Odeth as well as myself. And this one's a pretty special battle report, and the reason why is because both of us are bringing Chaos Legions. My friend Odeth is bringing the Esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns. It is a Chaos Legion of Tzeentch, and I'm bringing the Garden of Nurgle, my 2,500 point Chaos Legion of Nurgle army. So we're going to be throwing this down at 2,500 points. I'm really excited to see exactly what this battle report's going to look like because we've been building up to having mono-themed Chaos God armies, throwing it down on this channel. We're starting with the very first two. One for Tzeentch, the Lord of Magic, and one for Nurgle, the Lord of Diseases. So we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what each of us is bringing, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
And as always, we are playing a battle line scenario for this one. It's pretty much the same kind of battle formation and scenario we use for all of our battle reports. It has standard deployment rules as well as standard victory conditions because it is the best and easiest and standard version of Warhammer to play. So with the scenario rules over with, we go directly to the battle plan. As you can see, we're playing on a 4x6 table. My friend Odeth is deployed on the far side of the table, while my forces are deployed on the near side of the table. For this one, I'm going to play kind of defensively. The last time I played my Chaos Legion, the very first time I went up against a dwarf gun line, I went off on the offensive because if I hanged back and stayed in my deployment area, I would have been shot to pieces by those dwarves. But this time I'm fighting against another Chaos Legion, and both legions required close combat to be very effective against one another, and we actually have some pretty good magic for both sides of this army. Now, to be fair, the Lord of Tzeentch is more magic missile based and direct damage spells based, so it's a little bit more offensive. However, he only has one wizard with the Lord of Tzeentch. Well, actually two of them. He has a level 2 level sorcerer on a disc, and the other one is his pink horrors of Tzeentch. So because of that, the only thing I got to worry about is the Lord of Metal spells that's where Kalikos is packing, which is his demon prince, as well as the Aura of Mutation ability that's from the Mutalith Vortex Beast. So pretty much what my plan is to kind of hang back and let my opponent come towards me. I'm pretty used to doing that tactic because I play with dwarves. Nurgle armies are notoriously slow, plus if they engage me in close combat they have a -1 hit against me. So what my plan is to kind of castle up right in the middle of the table, using the buildings of the town on the right hand side to protect my right hand flank, and then of course engaging his flyers on the left hand flank as well, and engaging his fighters in the center with my own center lines. And that's pretty much what my plan is on this one. I'm going to try to hold back and try to countercharge instead of taking the offensive, play a little bit more defensively this time. So with the battle plan over with, we go directly to deployment. So starting with my left-hand flank for my Chaos Legion of Nurgle, I'm starting off with my Chaos War Shrine. As you can see, that's a new addition to my army. I painted up to 2,500 points for this army. That is the Horticolix Slimex miniature. That's from the Age of Sigmar. I'm using that as a War Shrine. That is a special. I'm using that as a War Shrine of Chaos dedicated to Nurgle. On the top, the Horticolix Slimex character. I'm basically making an Exalted Warrior hero. He's got a halberd. He's got a Dawnstone as well as a Dragon Helm. He's also riding a Chaos War Shrine, and that's represented by a Mulch on this one. He also has the Dawnstone too, I forgot to mention that. On the right hand side, that is my Tallyman that is a huge unit of 39 Plague Bearers of Nurgle. They have full command as well. Leading it is my Plague, my Herald of Nurgle. That's Barnabas the Scrivener. He has the Lesser Locus of Virulence, I believe how you pronounce it. Basically gives a 5 up for his poison attacks for this unit. And that makes up my left-hand flank. In the center of my army, I have the Dustmen, which is a unit of 23 Chaos Warriors of Nurgle. They have additional hand weapons as well as shield and chaos armor. The reason why I give an additional hand weapons is because I'm playing a 2,500 point army, and this unit has poison attacks. And the reason why is because Festus, the Leech Lord Empowered, is in this unit, so he gives them poison attacks. He also gives them 5 of regen saves as well. And also in this unit, like I said before, is Festus the Empowered. He's a level 3 wizard version that I'm putting in the middle of that unit as well. And then right behind them, of course, is my Demon Prince. That is Haster the King in Yellow. He's a level 4 Lore of Death wizard. He's also got Demon Prince of Nurgle. He's got Chaos Wings, Chaos Armor. He also has a Sword of Striking, as well as a Dragonbane Gem, Scaled Skin, Soul Feeder, Chaos Familiar, the whole kit out. This guy is a very tanky, very offensive magic build for a Demon Prince, and he's worth every single penny. And finally, on the very far right-hand side of my army is the Inglorious. That is 4 units of Nurglings. They're just located right there to protect my right-hand flank from my opponent's Chaos Knights, because I know those knights are coming right down my flank. So that pretty much makes our deployment on this one. So across the table is my friend Odeth with the Chaos Legion of Tzeentch. This is the Esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns. On the left-hand side in the back is Skrakalikos. He is the Warden of Pathways. That's his level 4 Lore of Metal Demon Prince of Tzeentch. That guy is pretty much kitted out exactly the same way as my Chaos Demon Prince is. He has got Sword of Striking. He's got the Dragonbane Gem. He's also got Scaled Skinned, Soul Feeder, Chaos Familiar, level 4 Lore of Metal, and he's also a Demon of Tzeentch. Right in front of him, that is Skeksis of Dark Crystals. That's his level 2 Lore of Tzeentch sorcerer. He's running a Discus Tzeentch. He's also got the Talisman of Preservation as well as the Third Eye of Tzeentch as well. And then in front of them is the Colors Out of Space. That is 3 Screamers of Tzeentch. And those guys are pretty much a very fast moving left hand flank. In the center of his deployment area is the bulk of his army. On the left-hand side, that is the Dunwich Horrors. It is a unit of 20 Pink Horrors of Tzeentch. They also have full command that unit as well. They're also level 1 Wizard Lore of Tzeentch as well. I believe they have the Blue Flames of Tzeentch, which is basically the magic missile spell, is what they have for that unit. Right next to them is the Storm Lords. It is a huge unit of 29 Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch armed with halberds as well as shields. They have full command as well. Also leading him is Akold Hellbrass, the champion of Tzeentch. He's got a great weapon. He's a battle standard bearer. He's also, I believe, has a Talisman of Endurance as well as and Marcus Tzeentch, of course, so it makes him pretty deadly as well. And then right next to them is the Shadow over Innistrad, which is a Mutolith Vortex Beast. And finally, make up his final right-hand flank is the Second Sons. That is a unit of 5 Chaos Knights of Tzeentch. They have lances as well as chaos armor on barded warhorses, and also they're carrying the Blasted Standard. And that pretty much makes up the deployment for my friend Odeth. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and we roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Chaos Legion of Nurgle. So this is after the movement phase. As you can see, I did not do very much movement at all. In fact, all I pretty much did is wheel my infantry forces forward, so that way they're between the house on the right hand side as well as the forest on the left hand side, protecting my flanks. On the left hand side, I moved up Horticolic Slimex as well as Mulch to defend my left hand flank. Right between them, I put the Tallymen as well as the Dustmen to make up my center lines, and I'm pretty much planning on just maintaining my position right there for the rest of the battle until my opponent charges up to me. On the left-hand flank, I did march fly my Demon Prince of Nurgle, Haster the King in Yellow, all the way to the left-hand flank. And the reason why is because my opponent's Demon Prince is also left-hand flank as well, and that unit is full of flyers, so they're going to be flying around the battlefield hitting my left-hand flank. So I figured between my War Shrine as well as my Demon Prince, I should be okay right there. At the same time, I also move up my Nurglings on the right-hand side, so the Inglorious kind of move towards the center of town, and that way they can intercept either the Mutolith Vortex Beast or the Second Son, so that way they don't flank the right-hand side of my army as well. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase for the turn number 1. Here's a close-up of my army wheeling into position, so that way they take a defensive stance between the forest as well as the buildings on the right-hand side. And here's a close-up of my Inglorious moving into the center of town to get ready to take on the Second Son Chaos Knights, because that's going to hurt, and I want to make sure those Knights don't get into the right-hand flank of my main battle line. And that pretty much makes up the move phase for this one. In the magic phase, I actually got quite a bit of spells off on this one. It was a pretty good magic phase for me. My opponent was pretty much trying to stop all my Lore of Death spells. That's what he was trying to do. So the first thing I do is I get Blades of Putrefaction off onto my unit as well. I get 5 up from my poison attacks from my Chaos Legion, from my Chaos Warriors. I also give him 4 up regen with the Fellowship Abundance onto my unit as well to improve that as well. And I also got off the War Shrine's ability, Giver of Glory on this one. And the first thing I did is I got D3 miniatures, which the Eye of the Gods chart. I get to roll 3d6 -1 to figure out what I want. So the very first character I got, because I got all 3 of them, was Festus the Leech Lord. I gave him +1 to attack. And then when it came to the champion for my Dustman, what ended up happening is I rolled a 12. I had to take a leadership test, which I passed. So my champion from my unit dies, but in exchange for that, I get a Demon Prince as well. So bam, right there in the middle of the table. That is the killer Blood Ape right there, because I don't have a spare Demon Prince model, so I just use that one for now. I have a brand new Demon Prince that just occupy the battlefield. And just like that, without any further ado, I will always include a Chaos War Shrine in my army now from this day forward, because that spell, Giver of Glory, is just too freaking awesome. Not to mention Horticulus, he also got +1 to his toughness as well, because he also rolled off on the Giver of Glory as well. So right off the bat, I got a Demon Prince right onto the battlefield, which is pretty awesome as well. And things are just looking up at this point. And I can't believe the Giver of Glory is just that powerful. I absolutely love that spell, and it makes me wonder why I never took a Chaos War Shrine before, because this thing is freaking amazing. When it comes to that pretty much makes the magic phase. I don't have a shooting phase because I play a Chaos Warrior army, and there is no close combat because nobody's charged. So that ends turn number 1 for the Chaos Legion of Nurgle. So that takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Chaos Legion of Tzeentch. And with this one, you can see in this photo, my buddy Odeth has done some dramatic movement across the entirety of the battlefield. The first thing that he does is that he charges forward with his second son directly into my Inglorious. So now my Nurglings are engaged with Chaos Knights. And of course, my Nurglings are going to be destroyed, but that's the point. I just kind of use them as a speed bump to slow down those Chaos Knights from attacking my right-hand flank. For the rest of his army, he just marches it forward. The first thing he does, he flies up the colors out of space. Those things fly up a full 24 inches all the way across the battlefield, landing on the far left-hand flank of my army. Right next to them, you can kind of see him, but he's kind of hidden behind those trees next to the color out of space. That is Skexes of Dark Crystals. He moves up his Chaos Sorcerer. He also flies up his General Skrikalikos, the Warden of Pathways, over the left-hand side as well. In the middle of the army, he does march up his forces forward. He moves up the Dunwich Horrors as well as the Stormlords around the King in Yellow statue, which is in the middle of the battlefield. He also moves up the Shadow over Innistrad right between those buildings there to make up the right-hand flank. And that pretty much makes up his movement on this one. Here's a close-up of the colors out of space, Skexes of Dark Crystals, as well as Skrikalikos, the Warden of Pathways, getting ready to charge in the left-hand flank, and that's pretty terrifying because it's a lot of fast-moving units over there on the left-hand side. And coming around either side of the King in Yellow statue is the Dunwich Horrors, as well as the Stormlords, as well as the Shadow over Innistrad. And finally, here's a close-up of the second son charging directly into my Inglorious, and this is where I say goodbye to my Nurglings because they're going to get smashed to pieces. In the magic phase, most of my opponent's dice were pretty much spent on casting Golden Hounds of Genna as well as the Final Transmutation, which I spent most of my Dispels dice kind of getting rid of those because I don't want those spells tearing up my army. However, my opponent did manage to cast off the Blue Flame of Tzeentch from the Dunwich Horrors directly into the Tallyman, managed to kill one of my guys when he rolled up on the Warp Flame chart, and I took my toughness check, I passed, and I got 6 up regen save for my Nurgle, my Tallyman. It doesn't really much of a down or Dutch though because my guys already have a 5 award save, and I'd rather take that over regen save any day. So, you know, 1 Tallyman. That was pretty much it. So with the magic phase over with, we can skip shooting phase and go directly to the combat phase. And as you can guess, the Nurglings did not stand a chance against the second sons. I believe the second sons managed to cause 8 wounds directly. I wasn't able to ward save any of them, so my first 2 units of Nurglings just atomized. And since I was unable to cause any damage back, the combat resolution difference caused the other 2 bases of Nurglings to just vaporize as well. And my opponent Odeth decided to overrun instead, and he overran 9 inches right through those buildings to right behind my enemy lines. So it's kind of scary for me because if he does manage to rally his troops around, he could charge my units from behind and catch me in a pincer attack, and that is absolutely terrifying to contemplate. So I'm going to have to do some quick maneuvering around to kind of intercept those Chaos Knights before it causes some merry hell charging me from behind. Which takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Chaos Legion of Nurgle. This photo is taken after the movement phase, and as you can see, I didn't move any of my forces around. Just like I said before, my plan is to fight defensively on this one. My opponent's taking the offense on this, so hopefully what will end up happening is that I can intercept the charges from his left-hand flank. I can hold it with my Chaos Demon as well as my War Shrine. I can then take on his main infantry forces in the center lines of the battlefield and hold them off as well. And my plan is to take my Chaos Champion, who became a Demon Prince, and have him flank around the right-hand side to take on the Second Sons, and that's exactly what I did. All I did is I shimmied my War Shrine over the left-hand side, so that way my Demon Prince and my War Shrine is protecting the edge of the table, as well as that force to protect my left-hand flank from anybody that charges from the left. I then moved my my Chaos Prince that I got, my new Demon Prince. I moved over the right hand side between those buildings there on the right hand side, so that way he can charge directly into the Second Sons, because my friend Odeth's gonna have to either do a reform or do a wheel in order for these guys to charge as supercharge for his next turn, which gives me a chance to intercept him with my Chaos Demon, hopefully destroy that unit as well. And everything else, my two main infantry units just kind of stay in the center of the battlefield because there is no reason for them to move. Here's a close-up of Horticulix Slimex as well as Hastur the King in Yellow getting ready to hold their ground on the left-hand flank for my army. And here's a close-up of the Tallyman as well as the Dustman just holding their ground and just waiting to receive the charge and to fight defensively for the next turn. And here's a close-up of my newly summoned Demon Prince getting ready to charge directly into the Second Sons and hopefully take those guys on. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the top of the magic phase. And in the magic phase, my friend will actually let me go get a couple of spells off. The first thing I did is I cast Shroudlings off onto my unit. Now, I don't think my friend Odeth knew exactly what that spell was, so I managed to get that spell off. So everything within 12 inches of my caster gets hard cover. So even if I do get charged against by my opponent, he's going to hit me with a -2 to hit against me because I got the hardcover save, so that part was kind of nice as well. I also managed to get Blades of Putrefaction off as well as Curse the Leper, giving my Chaos Dustmen 5 up on their poise attacks as well as 3 up on their toughness. My opponent did try to dispel those spells, but unfortunately he was just rolling really low for his dispel rolls, so unfortunately he wasn't able to stop most of it. Now he did stop my Purple Sun of Xerxes getting off. I spent half my dice pool just getting that spell off. He did manage to stop that spell, so not much came from my offense ability, but that's okay though because I really wanted to buff up my units because I have a sneaking suspicion my opponent's going to be charging forward the next turn, and I gotta get ready to accept the charge on that one. And that pretty much makes it the magic phase on that. And since there is no shooting and there's no close combat, we go directly to the bottom of the turn for the Chaos Legion of Tzeentch. So that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Chaos Legion of Tzeentch. As you can see, the order of the Esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns charges forward. On the left-hand side, the colors of the space charge directly into Horticulix Slimex, as well as Kokalikos, the Warden of Pathways, charges against Hastur, the King in Yellow. Also in the front center of the battlefield, the Stormlords charge across the battlefield directly into to my Dustman. Now, he does try to charge forward with his Dunwich Horrors, but unfortunately he fails the charge, so he only moves up a couple of inches. Same thing with his Mutilated Vortex Beast. The Shadow of Innistrad also moves up just a couple inches as well. And he decides to march his Second Sons and does a wheel formation, moving around the forest there on the right-hand side, so that way he can charge his next turn into the rear of any of my infantry units, which means that my other Demon Princes got to charge directly into those Second Sons if I want to stop that from happening, because my infantry forces can't afford being stuck in a pincer attack, because that would be absolutely devastating. But that pretty much makes up the move phase for the Chaos Legion of Tzeentch. Here's a close-up of the colors out of space surrounding my Horticulix Slimex character on his War Shrine of Chaos. That's also going to be kind of a dangerous combat for him because these things have Lamprey Bright, which means that they get D3 wounds on you if they manage to successfully hit and wound you as well, so that's pretty scary as well. I do have +1 toughness, so there is that, and -1 to hit against because I do have the Mark of Nurgle, so that kind of helps out. The fight I'm really looking forward to is the fight between Kokalikos, the Warden of Pathways, as well as Hastur, the King in Yellow. I want to see exactly how these two Demon Princes go at it, because they're both kitted identically, they just have different gods that they worship. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Here's a close-up of the Dunwich Horrors failing a charge and being stuck and left behind next to the statue of the King in Yellow. And here's a close-up of the Stormlords and the Dustmen engaged in close combat. And I'm really fascinated to see exactly what happens in this one, because yes, he has more troops than I do, and yes, he has higher strength attacks than I do, but I have more buffs for my army, so I'm really excited to see exactly how these two units fight it out here in the close combat phase. Also, if you look over the top of the screen, there is a close-up of the Mutilated Vortex Beast, the Shadow of Innistrad, moving up a couple of inches forward because he failed his charge. And finally, here's a close-up of the Second Sons, who are wheeling backwards in order to attack me from the rear against one of my units. And that pretty much makes it the move phase. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase, which we skip and we go directly to the combat phase. And the reason why we skip the magic phase is because all of the spells are pretty much dispelled, so it's kind of a waste of a magic phase for him. And there is no shooting because we're playing Chaos Legions. So in the combat phase, the fight between Skrakalikos as well as Hastur the King in Yellow ended up being a draw. The guy could really wound each other. I managed to hit him but failed to wound, and he managed to hit me but failed to wound as well. And that's because of the strength toughness difference as well as our armor saves. We both have 1-up armors for both of our demon princes as well as ward saves. So because of that, most of the damage was pretty much mitigated by our chaos armor, at the same time as also because of our ward saves as well. So the two of those demon princes are still engaged in close combat. Now, combat between the Kellers out of space as well as Horticolic Slimex went into my favor. I did manage to kill one of those screamers, so that part was kind of nice as well. I managed to cause 2 wounds, and I believe it's because of the combat res between them that I managed to finish out the last one. I believe that's what ended up happening. So because there's only 2 more of those screamers left to fight against. Now, combat in the center between the Dustmen as well as the Stormlords was totally one-sided. As you can see in this photo, the Stormlords were unable to cause a single wound onto my Dustmen. And the reason why is because my opponent had a -2 to hit for his attack rolls, which means he had to roll 6s in order to hit anybody. And so because of that, he rarely got any of his attacks off, plus not to mention it had really good regen bonuses as well, really high toughness as well. These guys are now toughness 7 against strength 6 attacks, so because they had to roll 5 or up to hit me, and plus I really have iron saves, so because of the end regen saves too, because of the potions that my character has, so because of that I did pretty well on that one. Now, originally how the combat worked out is that he issued a challenge with Akold Hellbrass, the Chaos Tzeentch, his battle standard bearer. He has to, and of course I accepted, and I did manage to pass my weapons check, and I did use my Pestilent Potions ability off where I caused D3 wounds right onto him right off the bat, and I rolled 3 on that one. So because of that, I killed Akold Hellbrass, his Chaos Tzeentch, in a duel by forcing potions down his throat like a madman, so that part was kind of nice. When it came to the close combat between the rest of our units, my Dustman managed to kill 8 of the Stormlords when it was all said and done. So with rank bonuses as well as our battle standard bearer still, with our rank bonuses as well as the 8 kills that we did, I managed to beat him by an astronomical amount. He had to roll Snake Eyes to stand. He failed and ran. He ran back 7 inches. I pursued exactly 7 inches, so because of that, my forces ran down the Stormlords and chopping those Chaos Warriors down. Now, I do have to worry about it because I do have to worry about the Muleth Vortex Beast attacking my right-hand flank, but it's my turn next anyways, so I can kind of mitigate those risks, because I just want to chase down those Stormlords and defeat them, because that's a huge hunk amount of points as well as a huge portion of the core for my enemy's army. And that pretty much is what I did for the combat phase. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Legion of Nurgle. So in this turn, I decided to take the offense on this one. This is taken after the move phase for the Chaos Legion. The first thing I do is I charge forward with my Demon Prince on the right hand side, my newly summoned one from the Giver of Glory. He charged directly into the right hand flank of the Second Son, so now those knights are engaged in close combat. Once I made sure that those guys were engaged and that my front was secure, I then decided to take the offense and charge forward with my Tallyman. So my Tallyman did charge through the charge forward right to the pink horrors. So because of that, Dunwich horrors are now engaged in close combat. Skrakalikos as well as Hastur the King in Yellow are still engaged in close combat. Same thing with the Colors Out of Space and Horticolic Slimex. Those guys are still engaged in close combat as well. And then the last thing I did is I did a quick combat reform real fast with my Dustman, turn to the right hand side to face the Muleth Vortex Beast, because we don't play that game. Here's a close-up of my Horticolic Slimex as well as Hastur the King in Yellow engaged with the enemy forces on the left hand flank. And here is a close-up of the Tallyman charging directly into the Dunwich horrors, and I'm really looking forward to see how this combat goes. And here's a close-up of the Dustman getting ready to face off against the Muleth Vortex Beast, the Shadow over Innistrad. And finally, here's a close-up of my newly summoned Demon Prince charging directly into the flank of the Second Sons. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And in the magic phase, I first cast off Curse of the Leper. I managed to get that spell off directly against Skrakalikos. Now, I was able to get that spell off because I burned out a couple of my opponent's dispel dice. I tried to cast Giver of Glory once again, and my opponent shut that spell down because he's afraid of me getting another Demon Prince. So because I spent a little bit more power dice than he should have trying to dispel that dice. I also tried to cast Bladed Putrescence as well as Fleshy Abundance again. My opponent, of course, dispelled those spells. However, I was able to cast Enfeebling Foe off onto Skrakalikos. So because of that, Enfeebling Foe, Crystal Leper off, I managed to take off 2 toughness off his toughness characteristic, which makes it a little bit easier to wound. So hopefully Hastur, the King in Yellow, have an easier time of wounding that Demon Prince of Tzeentch. And finally, I cast Shroudlings once again off by Festus, the Leech Lord, so that way it's -2 to hit for both my Tallyman as well as my Dustman, because Megalith Vortex Beast is pretty deadly in close combat too, and plus I want to make the combat really one-sided between my Tallyman as well as the Dunwich Horrors. Alright, so in the combat phase, the fight between Hastur, the King in Yellow, as well as Skrakalikos, the Warden of Pathways, went completely in my favor. We were fighting against each other. I managed to kill him by putting the last 2 wounds onto him, and the reason why I was able to do that is because the Enfeebling, the Curse of the Leper, made it a lot more so that all of his attacks actually wounded this time, and so just laws of large numbers, I was able to finally kill Skrakalikos, the Warden of Pathways, and another soul gets devoured for the greater god of Nurgle on that one. After that, we jumped all the way to the right hand side of the battlefield for my newly summoned Demon Prince against the Second Sons. I managed to kill 3 of those Chaos Knights and put a floating wound onto the 4th one as well, and they were unable to cause any wounds back to me. So needless to say, those Chaos Knights failed their panic test and they had to flee. And because we're so close to the table edge, I decided to restrain and keep my Demon Prince there. Did a quick combat reform to the right hand side so that we can take on the Megalith Vortex Beast, and my opponent's Second Sons fled off the battlefield trying to save their lives because they don't want to be eaten alive by my newly summoned Demon Prince. Meanwhile, combat between Horticulix Slimex as well as the Colors Out of Space, I think I managed to kill one of those Screamers and managed to put 2 more wounds on the last one, and because the difference of combat res between that, because he wasn't able to inflict any wounds back, was able to atomize that very last Screamer of Tzeentch. So because of that, that guy just got destroyed, and now both my units on the left hand flank are completely free. We do quick combat reforms to stare directly at Skexes of Dark Crystals. And the combat phase over here between my Tallyman as well as the Dunwich Horrors was completely one-sided on this one. I did manage to kill 11 of the Dunwich Horrors by the time it was all said and done, and they only managed to kill 2 of my Tallyman in response. And the reason why that was so bad is because, once again, the hardcover rules, they had to roll 6s in order to hit me, and, you know, Pink Horrors aren't really good with their weapon skill, and they're not really good with their attacks either. Now, neither of my guys are either, but I do have poison attacks, and a -1 hit against just to start off with as well, so that part was really into my favor. Needless to say, the difference in combat resolution between our 2 units was enough to atomize the rest of the Dunwich Horrors, so because of that, those Pink Horrors just vaporized back into the warp because of all the damage that they took. And it's at this point that my friend O'Death decides to call the game at this point, because the only thing he has left is Skexes of Dark Crystals as well as the Megalith Vortex Beast, and so he kind of surrenders, and that's another victory for yours truly. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going directly to the After Action report, because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, so now it's time for the After Action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for next time that we do battle. This is the After Action report for Warhammer the Golden Age, battle report number 47, and it being a victory for yours truly. In the losses, I didn't lose the Inglorious, which is my 4 Nurglings. O'Death, however, lost Skrakalikos, the Warden of Pathways, Ackled Hellbrass, the Champion of Tzeentch, the Stormlords, the Dunwich Horrors, the Colors Out of Space, as well as the Second Sons. And in the end, the Legion of Nurgle is insane with buffs. They get additions with their poison attack, regeneration, hardcover, plus they get additional buffs with augment spells. Chaos Legion of Nurgle is the illest in terms of both synergy as well as bonuses, and I do mean illest as a tongue-in-cheek term of phrase because of the fact these guys are plague-ridden. It is so much fun to use these guys and to see the buffs working well together and all these synergies in this list working together. It should be illegalized to have this much fun because it's just really cool seeing all of them working together and just kind of helping each other out. Best is the Leech Lord Empowered will always be in my list just because the fact it gives regen as well as poison attacks to regular Chaos Warriors, plus that Shroudlings bound spell, you can't beat that, especially because since Mark Nurgle has -1 to hit to begin with, -2 to hit because of hardcover, that's just amazing. And plus, Horticulix Slimex and Mulch, my Chaos War Shrine with the Giver of Glory ability, is awesomely legit. It gave me a Demon Prince from a Chaos Warrior champion on its first go around, and that was completely amazing to see that happen, having 2 Chaos Demon Princes running around the table. I should have played with that Chaos War Shrine in my Chaos army a long time ago because That thing is just too awesome. And furthermore, I should have been playing Legions of Nurgle a long time ago, because this army is a lot of fun to play. It's really cool to see all the stuff that they kind of do as well. As a side effect, the battle between the Stormlords and the Dustmen was a little too one-sided, because it's -3 to hit against me because of hardcover. That's a huge game changer, combined with the -1 to hit against with the Mark of Nurgle, so that part was pretty cool. And that also kind of shows you how important magic was a big factor in this fight. I pretty much dominated the magic phase for the entire battlefield, so that part was kind of cool as well. Another cool thing too was the fight between Hastur, the King in Yellow, as well as Skorkalikos, the Warden of Pathways. Just seeing those two demon princes identically kitted out, fighting each other from different gods. It was just kind of fun. You just could imagine this, like if this was a movie, you see the two of them just kind of roaring towards each other and just smashing each other, trying to slice each other to pieces for the glory of their gods. Needless to say, this was a fun game against an outstanding opponent. I am looking forward to the rematch. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, blogger.com for all the latest greatest news about the hobby aspect of our channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.